I'm Sam Sutherland, a person on the internet, and every week I'm keeping track of one thing that stokes me out, because the internet is a festering pile. And sometimes you have to remember why you want to dive right in. And this week, the thing that is making me dive in is the Buddha machine. It's been a long week. At least it hasn't been a short week, and I'm recording this on a Wednesday. So not a great sign. Don't get me wrong, life is good, every day is a blessing, but some weeks, there's just a lot of stuff happening. And it can be hard to calm your mind. And when you mostly just want to listen to Converge, it can be particularly hard to calm your mind. Several years ago, I was turned on to the Buddha machine in a conversation with Mike Ragnetta, who made Idea Channel and makes Reasonably Sound and all kinds of other great things, and from whom I stole the entire concept of this channel. He was discussing Buddha boxes, or chant boxes, or chant machines, which include loops of Buddhist chants that many Buddhists keep in their homes, apparently. And inspired by these Buddha boxes, a Beijing-based electronic duo called FM3 created something called the Buddha machine. I bought my own Buddha machine several years ago from a great record store in Toronto called Soundscapes. And to be honest, during a hectic week such as this one, it provides me with a tremendous degree of mental relief. Mine is also part of the Buddha Machine 4 family, meaning it is a tremendously funky color. The Buddha machine looks like a little transistor radio, and it comes inside of a cardboard box. And it is an incredibly sophisticated music player or musical instrument. And by incredibly sophisticated, I actually mean insanely rudimentary, but futuristic in its vision. So let's start with the basic mechanics of what it is. It's a tiny plastic box with a tiny speaker. By the way, I want to make this very clear, this video isn't sponsored. There's no way that these people would sponsor me, but I'm just like, unboxing. I was feeling very YouTube-y just then. Hey guys! The Buddha machine has one dial for volume, one dial for pitch control, and a button to switch loops. The original Buddha machine was released in 2005, and FM3 were inspired by those chant boxes that I mentioned earlier, except their version contains a series of electronic loops. In the case of the first one, 9 different loops. Now it wasn't until the Buddha machine 2 that they added pitch control, which allows an entire new way of experimenting with the sounds contained therein. The loops on every Buddha machine are very Eno-esque. Some have compared the FM3 Buddha machine to Eno's idea of generative music, but it's not strictly that. Really, they are loops on a speaker. They could go on forever. With certain versions, you have the variability of the pitch control, but it exists somewhere in a land between a music player and a musical instrument. I can't tell you for sure how it works. Besides the little speaker and the knobs, I don't really know what's going on in there. However, the schematics provided by FM3 indicate that there's several layers of electronics, and then a tiny Buddha, and then several more layers of electronics. The original Buddha machine was even reviewed by Pitchfork, and was given an 8.2, which, like, kudos, that's a serious bump. And since the release of the first Buddha machine in 2005, there have been 5 different standalone iterations. And there have also been collaborative Buddha machines, where loops sourced from Throbbing Gristle or Philip Glass have been utilized and expanded upon and experimented with. There are even iPhone and iPad versions that contain all of the loops from all of the generations of the Buddha machine and give users, listeners, performers an opportunity to manipulate all of the loops across all of the different devices that FM3 have created over the last 13 years. Now, in addition to the 5 original versions, the collaborative versions, there are also apparently 15 extremely limited edition ceramic editions of the Buddha machine. Vice China made a really interesting documentary about FM3 in 2013, where the duo explained that the Buddha machine is actually much more famous than they are. That there's sort of tiers of their fame. There's the Buddha machine, there's FM3, and then there's them as individuals. And that it's unique that a piece of work could so completely eclipse a musical duo. And that is really interesting. Thank you. I should mention that FM3 are literally 2 people with names. US native Christian Virent, who moved to Beijing in the 1980s to study, and Zhang Jian. When the duo performed Buddha Machine live, they've invented a game that they call Buddha Boxing, which uses 2 players and at least 3 Buddha machines, where the first player puts down the machine with the loop with the speed that they want, and the next player counters with their own loop that complements or conflicts with the initial loop. By the end of the performance, FM3 themselves have often left the stage, and the audience are the ones performing and participating, which brings us back to my initial query, which is the Buddha machine an instrument or a record? Or a recording, a device that plays the music that FM3 have simply put on it. And that's it. It's like a really, really shitty iPod. This is a remarkable cop-out, and I think it's still the correct answer, which is that it can be both. For me, what's led me back into the warm embrace of the Buddha machine in the last several days is wanting to listen to music that isn't as distracting and super sick as Converge. I like the idea of ambient music in the same way that I like the idea of jazz, or at least Miles Davis, and the idea of piano concertos, or at least the Bach variations as performed by Glenn Gould. The Goldberg variations, but like, it's Bach. But the reality of my listening habits is that when I'm walking to work in the middle of July, I'm still listening to Blink-182. And when I'm walking to work in the middle of February, I'm still listening to Blink-182. What the Buddha machine creates is an opportunity to truly engage with innovative, experimental music in the ambient space in a way that feels so entirely appropriate and goes beyond a Spotify chill study playlist into the realm of real art that you are able to be an active participant in. So for me, my experience of the Buddha machine is a lot of, sitting around trying to study and just letting the grooves groove me. Except when cars honk, it bums me out, But others, like FM3, but not limited to FM3, have taken the Buddha machine into the live performance environment. German composer Robert Henke has a piece that he calls Layering Buddha, which he's performed all over Europe, in Canada, and in Australia, wherein he is utilizing Buddha machines for his own original performance. In addition, there are many very exciting videos on YouTube, some of which are linked in the description, wherein people who are already into circuit bending, which is sick and something I should do a video about, have hacked or bent a Buddha machine in order to create new opportunities for manipulation that go beyond the volume and the pitch control of the traditional device and include messing with wave shape, speed, and depth. 3 to 4 words that I was not going to remember without looking down. So in these very interesting and specific ways, the Buddha machine is an utterly unique piece of music or musical instrument. And it's also a really nice way to relax when your week has been long. And so thank you to the Buddha machine and FM3 for giving me something to be stoked about this week in a real low-key fashion. What's the most interesting thing that you learned about this week? Let me know in the comments, on Twitter, or at the bar. Be excellent to each other. Stay stoked forever.